Good evening, dear students. Welcome to the second session of Business Statistics. Having a good understanding about business statistics from the very first lecture, today you are going to learn about data and data collection. There is no statistics without data. In the business statistics definition itself, it says that data collected will be further processed and interpreted. Based on the interpreted data, managerial decisions will be made under uncertainty. Therefore, it's important to learn about data and the ways of collecting data. Today, under this chapter, you will be learning about variables and different categories of variables such as numerical and categorical. Further, you'll be learning about the levels of measurements, basic data types as primary and secondary data, several methods of collecting primary data such as interviews, direct personal observations, and questionnaires. As a method of collecting primary data, you will be learning today about how to prepare a questionnaire. So once you have learned this lesson today, you must be able to explain how a statistical survey should be planned. You must be able to identify the difference between primary and secondary data. Then you must have a clear understanding about preparation of a questionnaire. Okay, as students, you must have answered at least one questionnaire. Say, for example, there was a question in a questionnaire that you have answered asking about your weight. The answer that you provide for this question becomes data, and the question itself represents the variable. Under this example, the question is about the weight and weight is the variable. The answer you provide about your actual weight, which might be 60 kilograms or 55 kilograms, that figure is the data. Then if we refer to the definition of a variable means any measurable characteristic or an attribute that may be differed for different subjects. Say, for an example, you have to measure the height of 20 students and height is the variable. Then assume before measuring the height of these students, you are going to ask them about their place of living. Then this place of living also becomes a variable. Variables are broadly categorized into two categories, namely qualitative variables and quantitative variables. Qualitative variables are non-numeric in nature and quantitative variables are numeric in nature. Then this quantitative variable is further categorized as discrete variables and continuous variables. Talking about qualitative variables are non-numeric and you can't measure them numerically. They differ in types with categorical responses. For example, say you observed 20 students and recorded their gender as males and females. Once you have finished recording, you may notice there are two categories of students in terms of gender, such as males and females. Further, you may observe the color of eyes of the students, which might be black, brown, and blue. So this also will lead for you to find different types of eye colors. Then quantitative variables. Quantitative variables are the variables with count or the variables that can be measured numerically. For instance, if we take the lifetime of a car battery, it can be measured numerically as 1 year or 2 years or 2.5 years. Further, if we consider the number of employees who are employed in the company, we can count the number of employees and say, okay, in this company we have 20 employees. Then these quantitative variables can be discrete in nature, where the variable has a certain clearly separated value. For example, if we consider the number of bedrooms located in a house, the number of bedrooms can be 1, 2, or 3. But we can't have a number of bedrooms as 2.5 or 3.5. Similarly, if we consider the number of children in a family, that might be either 1 or 2, but no 2.5 or 3.25 children. Further, quantitative variables has another category called continuous variables. Continuous variables are the variables which have theoretically an infinite number of gradations between two measurements. For example, if we consider the weight of a person, that person's weight might be in between 50 kilograms and 51 kilograms. That means that person's weight may be 50.001 or 50.25 or 50.95. Under continuous variables, you may find any value within a specific range. Okay, once you have collected data for a variable, that data represents some amount of information, which is called the level of measurement. Based on how much information is represented in the numbers associated with the particular variable, different levels of measurement are identified, namely nominal, ordinal, interval, and ratio. Nominal measurement represents the lowest amount of information, whereas the ratio measurement represents the highest amount of information. Talking about nominal measurement, when we gather data for a variable, where data is a label or a name, we identify it as a nominal measurement. Nominal measurement is associated with non-numerical measures or qualitative variables. If we have to gather data about 10 students, we first ask about their gender, which is male or female as labels. Further, we can categorize these 10 students into two categories, namely females and males. Say we have recorded the gender of these 10 students and we identify 6 students belong to female category and 4 students belong to male category. That means variables which which are identified as labels or name tags can be classified and counted. Additionally, we cannot do comparisons between the variables. The only possible comparison that we can do is equality and inequality. That means we can't say males are better than females or greater than females. The only comparison that we can do is equality and inequality, where we say girls belong to female category and boys belong to male category. Similarly, for nominal measurement, mathematical operations such as addition, subtraction, etc. cannot be applied. For example, for ease of counting, we can assign codes for female and male category as 1 and 2. Or for the other example, for hair color, for black we assign the code 1, for brown we assign the code 2, for gray we assign the code 3, but based on those codes we cannot apply addition or subtraction. Even though we got answers, those are not meaningful. Then when it comes to ordinal measurement is the next highest level of measurement, which represents more information than nominal measurements, and the observations which come under this ordinal measurement have all the features of nominal measurement. For this measurement, a qualitative variable or an attribute is ranked. For example, you gather data from students about their education, such as primary level of education, secondary level, and university level. Now you can rank the level of education of the students. You can say primary level of education is the least level of education and the university level of education is the highest level of education. Further, you can compare them. For example, university level of education is higher than the secondary level of education. Then mathematical operations cannot be applied for ordinal measurements also because that application doesn't add any meaning to the measurement. Moving towards to the interval level of measurement. Interval level of measurement is the next highest level of measurement. It represents all the characteristics of the ordinal level of measurement. In addition to the ordinal level of measurement, in the interval level of measurement, the difference between values is meaningful, and as a result of that, we can apply addition and subtraction for this measurement. Celsius decrease of temperature can be taken as an example for this measurement. Imagine the temperature of a city on 2 consecutive days are 30 and 32 degrees of Celsius. The difference of the temperature of the 2 days are 2 degrees of Celsius. 32 and 30, the difference is 2 degrees. Similarly, in another city, temperature on 2 consecutive days will be 28 degrees and 30 degrees of Celsius, and that difference is also 2 degrees. Further, in the interval level of measurement, we can say 0 has a meaning. There, 0 is just a point on a scale. It does not represent the absence of the condition. For example, 0 degrees of 0 Celsius decrease of temperature does not represent the absence of either heat or cold. In simple terms, at 0 degrees of Celsius, you may feel something either cold or hot, and we know as our experience, we feel cold. Then under this measurement scale, we can't say 20 degrees of Celsius of temperature is twice as warm as 10 degrees of Celsius, because the ratios between the numbers are not meaningful under this measurement. As a result of that, multiplication and division cannot be applied for this measurement. So, for your further reference about this measurement, you may look at the slide number 17. There is an example. Moving towards the ratio measurement. Ratio measurement is the highest level of measurement. Quantitative variables can be recorded as ratio level of measurement. At the same time, this measurement has all the characteristics of interval level of measurement. However, in this measurement, 0 on the scale has a mean. This means if there is 0 under this ratio measurement, that has a mean. If we talk about units of production as an example, say on one particular day, there were 0 units of production of a factory. That means that day, this particular factory has not produced any product, or no production has been occurred. Wage is also another example for this. If you have 0 rupees with you as your wage, that means you have no money with you. There, Zero has a meaning. Zero means nothing. Further, say company A pays 100 rupees per hour for an experienced worker and 50 rupees per hour for a training. This means 50 rupees is 2 times as 100 rupees per hour. Accordingly, we can say the ratio between two numbers are meaningful, and that leads to application of multiplication and division under ratio measurement. Having learned about 4 types of levels of measurement: nominal, ordinal, interval, and ratio, now it's your time to do this exercise. This exercise is about it is about like you're given few variables, and what you have to do is you have to place the variables in the relevant row of the table which is given in next slide. The variables are salary, country code, sales volume of MP3 players, preference of a university selection, temperature, student rank in a class, rating of a professor, and number of home video screens. So here you are given the table. There you have 4 levels of measurement, and you have to find the relevant variable. For example, if we take salary, you know that is a ratio level of measurement. Then you may put salary under ratio row. Then if we take country code, we know country code can be identified as a label or a name. So that comes under nominal level. Then if we talk about preference of a university selection, there you find your first preference, second preference, third preference. There you see a rank of your choice. Then that comes under ordinal level of measurement. Then you have temperature. Temperature is interval level of measurement. So likewise, you may classify all these variables under 4 levels of measurements. When it comes to this primary data, we can collect primary data using several methods. You might be collecting data for your research study through an interview, or through observing through direct personal observations, or through questionnaire. When it comes to interviews, collecting especially primary data using interviews is known as mostly used method, and there are 2 types of interviews that we can use to collect primary data. They are structured interviews and unstructured interviews. For the interviews, we have to use enumerators or interviewers. So when we are going to use these interviewers, we have to select them carefully, and we have to well train them. For structured interviews, the interviewer goes to the interviewee or the respondent with a standardized questionnaire where there are already planned questionnaires about the purpose of the inquiry. Then the interviewer or the enumerator questions the respondent about the questions included in the questionnaire and records them. Under unstructured interviews, the interviewer encourages the participant to talk about a question.
about a particular topic in detail, there the respondent is given more freedom to express that person's ideas. And what the interviewer does is he provides some additional guidance by using a set of questions to promote discussions and elaborate the topic to the respondent further. The next method of collection of primary data is direct personal observation. So when it comes to direct personal observation, the investigator himself or herself engage in the data collection process personally. For example, if one wants to study the living condition of a particular village, what that person does is he started to go to that village and stay in that village for a particular time, maybe for 1 month or 3 months, and collect the needed information from the villagers in that village, and he might be experiencing some of the experience which are associated with that particular village. Next method is preparing questionnaires. When it comes to a questionnaire, it is consisted of a list of questions which might have a set based on the purpose of the study or matching the purpose of the study. So once this questionnaire is prepared carefully matching the purpose of the study, this might be sent to the focused set of respondents, and those respondents have to write the answers in the given spaces of the questionnaire. When it comes to modern world, now what we do is, rather than distributing the questionnaires to the respondents, we might be mailing them through emails. Further, talking about the questionnaire, there might be several types of questions in a particular questionnaire. First type is simple alternate questions, where you might have two clear-cut alternative answers such as yes or no. For example, there might be a question asking, are you married? So the answer would be either yes or no. The next type of question that you may include in your questionnaire will be multiple choice questions. When it comes to these multiple choice questions, you might have two options where you have a single response or multiple response. When it comes to these single response multiple choice questions, you have a list of possible answers, and you have to pick only one answer out of the given list of answers or responses. Then when it comes to these multiple choice questions, there also you have already listed responses for a particular question. There you may pick only one or more than one response. When it comes to these multiple choice questions with multiple response, there you have already listed set of responses for a particular question, and out of those set of responses, what you have to do is you have to pick either one particular answer, or you have the freedom of picking more than one answer. The next type of questions is ranking order questions. Under this type of a question, you are asked a question about your preference or interest, and you are given some answers. So those answers should be ranked according to your preference or interest. For example, here you are given a question, please rank 1 to 4 the following in the order of interest, where 1 is for mostly preferred and 4 is for least preferred, and you are given options such as swimming, boat riding, surfing and sunbathing. So if your first choice is swimming, you may put 1. If your second choice is boat riding, you may put 2, such as you may put your number of preference. When it comes to Likert scale questions, for a particular question, you are given alternative scales as responses, such as strongly disagree, disagree, neutral, agree, strongly agree. So based on the question, you might be picking one particular scale. For example, here you are given a question or a statement. Our firm has reduced consumption of hazardous material during the last 3 years compared to our main competitor. So based on your firm's experience, if you disagree with the statement, you may tick the alternative scale disagree. The next type of question is open-ended question. You are asked a question and you are given enough space in the questionnaire to write your answers on your own, what you feel for that question. So next type of questions, next type of question that you may include in your questionnaire is open-end question. There you are just given the question and you are not given the alternative answers or listed set of responses, and as a respondent you are fully free. You can express your own ideas about the asked question. So now you have a good idea about what sort of question should be included in your questionnaire, and when you are going to prepare your questionnaire, you have to concern about these things. First, you have to arrange your questionnaire in an attractive layout. Then you have to use simple words, and you better avoid jargons which are not understood by a normal person. Then you have to arrange your questions in a logical manner. For example, you might be first asking about demographic information about the respondent. Then you may next refer to the questions which are focused on the purpose of the study. Then you have to provide necessary instructions to the respondent to answer the given list of questions, such as ranking the given list of responses based on the preferences and all. Then you have to avoid personal or sensitive questions, such as inquiring about the salary or diseases and maybe loss of close relations and all. Finally, before distributing the questionnaire, what you have to do is you have to pre-test the questionnaire by distributing that to a small number of sample. Understanding about the primary data and the methods of collecting primary data. When it comes to studies or when it comes to experiments, we might have to use not only primary data, sometimes we have to use secondary data. So when we are going to use this secondary data, we have to concern about several things. We have to see whether the data that we are looking through already published documents is available. For example, say you want to get a list of manufacturing companies in Sri Lanka. For that, you might be using BOI reports. So, in the BOI reports, you might have noticed, okay, there are a list of manufacturing companies mentioned. Then you have to check that available secondary data is suitable for your purpose of the study. For example, your purpose of the study your study might be about the large-scale manufacturing companies. So, the list that you have identified through BOI reports should have large-scale manufacturing companies' names. So, if they have the large-scale manufacturing companies list, okay, that available data is suitable for your purpose of the study. Then you have to worry about the adequacy of the available data for your present analysis. That means like say for your study you might need 50 large scale manufacturing companies, but in the available DOI reports they have only listed like 20 manufacturing companies. So there you don't have enough number of data. So likewise you have to worry about the adequacy. Then you have to think about the reliability of secondary data. Next, you have to worry about the reliability of secondary data. If the data collected party has used proper methods of collecting data and statistics, we can rely upon the available secondary data. Now we have come to the conclusion of this second session of business statistics, which was about basically data and data collection. So under this lesson, you have an idea about different types of variables, basically qualitative and quantitative. Then you learned about 4 levels of measurements: nominal, ordinal, interval, and ratio levels of measurements. Then we talked about primary and secondary data, the meaning of them and the methods of collecting primary data, and if you are using secondary data, what sort of things that we should be worried about. In the next sessions, you will be further learning about the presentation of qualitative and quantitative variables. Thank you very much.